Any dysfunctional behavior that is not physical, things that are non-physical, that you persist in, that you consistently do, you can classify as mental illness. I'm not an expert. I don't have a degree. But I know that any behavior that's dysfunctional, that you persist in, can be classified as a mental illness. Okay, you stuck with me? Good. I'm glad you stuck with me. Here we go. So mental illness, right? Anything that we do that's a mental thing. Let's say I have a habit of putting people down in a joking way. I always joke, but I'm always putting them down. And I do that consistently. So the first time I do it, it's not really a thing. But usually if I'm doing that, I will probably learn it from someone, or I'm doing it based off of a trauma, right? So I'm putting you down, and the more I consistently do it, it's not a functional thing, right? So it's dysfunctional, so it becomes sick. There's something wrong, right? So you can label that as sick. If I continue in it, and I continue over a period of time, it becomes an illness. It's not a physical thing, it's a mental thing. So now it's a mental illness. And if I continue in that illness and years go by, guess what? It becomes infectious. It becomes communicable, meaning you can transfer that to other people. So let's say I have children. Guess what happens? I pass that thing on down. And that becomes a generational curse. Right? That's how it works. Feel free to disagree. I got a scripture for you. Old Testament, Deuteronomy, chapter 28. This in particular starts in verse 15 and goes all the way to verse 68. And it is curses for disobedience. In verse 28, it states that Yahuwah will afflict you with madness, blindness, and confusion of mind. Those things sound like mental illness. I know some people beg to differ. Sure, that's fine. I looked up madness, I looked up blindness, and I looked up confusion as to what was written in the Hebrew and what they translated that from. First word, madness. Shigaon. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's madness, and it's translated as mad, crazy, furious. There's a wildness there, a helpless panic that you'll have. Blindness, ivaron, and it just means blindness. You can't see. Confusion, timaron. These all rhyme for some reason too. It's weird, right? But it's like an astonishment, it's a bewilderment, it's stupefaction. Stupefaction, right? And terror is a part of that. And that is a result of us disobeying the things that Yahuwah told us to do. His commandments, he'll afflict us with that. If you go to the beginning of that chapter, it'll tell you the blessings for obeying his commandments. If you flip chapters back, it'll give you the commandments that you should obey. And in disobedience to that, these things will come upon you. Why did I say all that? I wanted you to have a scripture for that. There's scripture for that. That's not the only one. It's just the one I pulled up. Find the other ones that talk about mental illness. We have to realize that there is a lot of things that we do, whether it's from trauma, whether it's from whatever, whether it's learned behavior that is extremely dysfunctional and actually makes us mentally ill. Mental illness doesn't always look like the big ones. Schizophrenia, it doesn't always look like DID, dissociative identity disorder, things like that. It doesn't always look like that. Mental illness can just be anger issues. Nobody can't say anything to you without you flying off the handle. That's a mental illness. It's not a functional thing. It's not a proper way to act. It's not a proper behavior. That's an illness because you persist in that, and eventually you can't stop it, but eventually you're going to pass that on and turn it into a curse that becomes generational. It's something that's infectious, just like a cold. If you're around a sick person that has a cold and you let them cough and hack on you, you're most likely going to catch it. Same thing with mental illnesses. Yeah, so